Good morning, good evening, but wherever you are, this is your host, Pastor Nkosi, on the Community Wellness Show. I hope and I believe for you had yourself a wonderful day, on the 24th of March 2021. Motwetu wa Westside FM. It's a great pleasure to say that, to find out, or maybe to check on you to say that, are you tuned in, and also can you advise other people to tune in to Westside FM this evening, as we will be engaging with so much interesting topic today. Something very interesting. Changing a bit of a lewa, we instead of doing the business side of it and maybe talking about business and entrepreneurship, we are going to engage with something that I know that most of you will be interested to engage or to know for what's happening. But anyway, before we can go far, I would definitely let's just take one of the motivation, about entrepreneurship, and when we come back, I'm tempted to start with the topic immediately. Because of we normally engage around 20 past 7, but let's see what will transpire, because I think it with the time that we have on our side, the talk time, it's 28 minutes, and I don't think it's gonna be enough. I don't think it's going to be enough. But anyway, it's okay. Let me just do this. We are going to take a motivation, and from there, when we come back, I'll just allow my guests to introduce themselves. And then let's rock it. Let's rock it and just, in it once and for all. I'm just excited. I'm just excited. I'm excited. Right. It's one of the motivations that you can be able to engage and know what this is actually about, business and entrepreneurship. Let's encourage people about entrepreneurship. We'll come back.
Visit our website startupstories.in for more inspirational stories and updates from the startup world.
Time now, it is 13 minutes after 7 o'clock. As I said that we have to start now. We have to start with our talk for tonight with my guests here at the studio, and then I'm going to give them the opportunity to greet you so that they can be able to introduce themselves, who are they, where they're coming from, and all those sort of information, because of I know it is a very important. Let me just give the opportunity to greet you.
Dumelang bagaetsho, my name is Thapelo Masokwani, born and bred in the dusty street of Tembisa. At the age of 21 years, I was sentenced to 15 years in prison. I'm an author of a book titled From Prison to Pulpit. Thank you.
Pastor Joel, thank you so much for this opportunity, and thank you to all of your listeners. My name is Glenn Lee Meyer. I'm the founder and director of the Urban Farming Cooperative. We're a non-profit organization that's committed to eradicating malnutrition in impoverished communities. Like my brother Thapelo, I served some time in prison between 1998 and 2007, and I'm very blessed at the moment to be back in prison again as a service provider this time.
I was like, now what are you doing here?
So it's a very nice experience. I get to go in and share my experience with the guys inside and provide a little bit of hope and inspiration. But at the end of the day, I get to go home, which is truly a great blessing. So
sure.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Why are we here, gentlemen? Because I think most of the listeners will be very much interested to know that. And then, what about the guests? Why are they here?
To begin with, we are here to discuss rehabilitation, reintegration, and reoffending. We're dealing with the social ills in our community. You talk about drugs, you talk about human trafficking, you talk about criminal activities that are happening in our communities, because, truth be told, as particularly black people, we are suffering, and we are suffering from these criminal activities that are happening. Most of our young people are in prison, are in Yaope, and for the most part, I come from that lifestyle. Okay. And I'm now an inspiration to them to say, you can make it, because I made it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's the business of people. We were talking awfully just now about the fact that so many people are entrepreneurial minded. They just happen to be selling drugs or selling stolen cars. So they had that mindset already of developing a business and putting themselves out there. Just the way that they apply themselves gets them into conflict with the law and gets them into a prison system. And then the tragedy with the prison system is that once you're in it, you almost a product of the system, you're bound to go back. So we know that 7 out of 8 of the people who are incarcerated are likely to go back into prison. And this has a massive effect on the country, whether you're black or whether you're white. If we look at one of the only industries to show growth year on year for many, many years was tourism. And it's people coming to the country. So we've obviously now for the last year had the scourge of COVID, which has impacted communities across the racial spectrum. But ultimately, long before COVID, we had this issue of crime. And crime preventing people from coming to the country. So this was foreign tourists, but also just us as people being able to walk through the streets and feel confident and safe in doing so. So, it's a very interesting discussion this evening about people.
Wow. Wow. I just want to can you tell us, Thapelo, about some of the things that you used to do if you're fine with it, and then that ended you being imprisoned?
Like I said, maybe let me find context into today's conversations. I was raised by a single parent.
All right.
And one of the things that I'm still battling with today is to know who was my father. When you grow up, you ask questions. You grow up in poverty. Truth be told, no one wakes up and decided to become a criminal.
Yeah.
From the early stage or in our infancy stage, each and every person has a dream. Each and every person wanted to become something. For the most part, I wanted to become a soccer player because I was skillful. I used to play soccer. But because of, I call it systematic poverty, that is created by the system, even today the system, it continues to impoverish people. So for me, it was growing in that poverty. Because when you grow in poverty, you make wrong choices. You can't make positive choices growing in poverty. Most people are growing in poverty, you're gonna make wrong choices. So for me, it was growing in poverty, single parents, we're living in a shack for approximately 18 years. I was living in a shack. So I started, well, hanging around with good children, but you don't fit in that type of group because they come from a well-to-do family. They have fathers, and when now you are coming from a family where there's no food, you're coming from the family where, you see, we never had those gadgets. TV, there was no electricity where I grew up in TV. It was just the shack. When the rain was raining, it was not just raining outside, but it was also
raining inside.
You understand? So you ask questions. Why? Remember now, anger comes in. When you are angry now, you are this angry young man, I'm growing up, then I started to look for coping mechanisms. Coping mechanisms, I talk about drugs. You see, I always say drugs are not an issue. Alcohol is not an issue. They are deep-seated issues that people are running away from. So they end up using those substance abuse, they end up using those drug abuse to numb the pain or to run away from the challenges of life. For me, I wanted escape, to run away there. Of course, when you are now smoking drugs, it's a habit. And you are not working. You have to go and rob people. That's how I started. I started in the townships. That's where I started. I will break the zozos, take the DVDs. But most of my friends were killed by mob justice. And twice I was beaten by mob justice. In fact, I articulated in the book. Then I realized I don't want to die like a dog. So now you graduate. I started going to the suburb. And I was doing hijacking, armed robbery, house robbery, business robbery. You can name all the crimes that you wish. And this happened almost for, I think, since from 16 years. Until when I was 21, I was sentenced to 15 years imprisonment.
Wow. There is this thing, before I come to you, Glenn, there is this thing that we normally, maybe some of the families, or maybe some of the ladies, they find comfort with, to say, no, I'm bringing my child, I just want to make sure that my child is actually have whatever that he or she wants and stuff like that. And then at the end of let's say, for instance, the child now become a teenager, and then maybe after matric or whatsoever, there's that time that the child now is asking for the father, and whereas the mother has been so much helping out with the child to make sure that the child is actually getting a better lifestyle. Have you ever found yourself in that state whereby your mother goes all out to do whatever that she can, but at the end of the day there's that longing for your own father, seeking some answers, or maybe seeking to have your father around you?
Let me be honest with you.
Yeah.
No matter how much the mother will support you. My mom, she's a hero. She died 2016, but she was a hero. She raised 5 children
All by herself.
With nothing. And she was going all out, working as a kitchen girl. She tried her level best. She never abandoned us. But like I said, a role model of a boy child, it's a father, not a mother. A house
That's power.
has no mother or father is dysfunctional and incomplete, because there are certain things that I cannot relate with my mom. I needed someone, the masculine person in the house who can guide and lead me in the house, because once you are at the age 16, you are disrespectful. You talk back to your mother, because why? I'm angry. And my mother can, but if the voice of a father was there to guide, the father has to take his place. The reason why we are having this society, especially the broken society we are living in, it's because of, it starts at home. If you have a dysfunctional home, you are going to have a dysfunctional community. And a dysfunctional community produces a dysfunctional nation. And a dysfunctional nation produces a confused global world. So that's why the problem is in the home. We made babies, we leave. So even in my book, this is what I've said to say, regardless of the complications of my mother and father, yes, people divorce, we know people separate, but why my father didn't want to be in my life? Because being in the life of your child, it's not about money. It's about time and care. There are those fathers who don't have nothing, but they are raising their children. And that's why their children become better people in the society. They will even break to say, my father didn't have 1, 2, 3, 4, those material resources, but my father was there. And I believe one preacher once put it, he says, it's not what you leave for your kids, it's what you leave in them that will live longer. So for me, nothing was left for me. So I had to go outside to look for the role model outside. And for me, the role models were those who were stealing cars. Those who were stealing, because now I'm looking for something to relate. If my father, if a father is not in the house, I'm telling you now, it's dysfunctional. That's why even parents, mothers, they find it difficult to raise a boy child.
Wow. Glenn, do you have a different story?
No, so it's a powerful situation that Thapelo comes from. And I heard a statistic recently that said that 61% of children under the age of 18 are growing up without their father.
61%.
61% of children under the age of 18 are growing up with their
That's
fathers.
a big number.
So this nation is built on the backs of mothers. Mothers who sacrifice everything to make sure that their children have enough and that their children are well looked after. But my situation was very similar. I grew up with in a very difficult relationship with my stepfather at the time. And when I was 16, 17 years old, I started looking for validation in older men, in peer groups where I was the youngster. And that peer group happened to be involved in the club scene. And because of that, I was exposed to club drugs, to ecstasy, and I started selling. And it was a very, very brief period, but in that period of time got into a lot of trouble, had a lot of people owe me money, and I got involved in a debt collection. And that debt collection went very, very wrong, and some people died, and I ended up having to hand myself over to the police, and I was sentenced. And so I was sentenced to 41 years in prison at the age of 9 years. At the age of 19, sorry. So I had 41 years in prison, and I ended up serving 9 years and 3 months of that sentence.
Okay.
So on the flip side though, while I was inside, found a group of people of a similar mindset, and we started working together. So we had this entrepreneurial mindset. We were in a difficult situation. We have absolutely no resources available to us, but we do know that this environment that we're in can be improved and can be better and should be beneficial to all of us. So we worked together to initiate life skills programs, to invite schools, to invite clubs like the Rotary Club, for example, to come into the facility and to donate time You know, it's not just about material, it's not just about money, it's about time and your intention.
What do they do?
And we were very blessed. We led a really good life for that period of time that we were inside there. It was at Johannesburg Medium Sea Correctional Centre. And yeah, I have to say it was actually probably the most beneficial experience in the 41 years that I've been on Earth, was that period inside, because it really allowed me to look deep in within myself and to see, you know, where I was responsible for my surroundings and my environment. And it taught me a lot about the father that I wanted to be, and the father that I am today to my young son.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's very touchy, because of, I mean, we find lots of young people out there today, they're taking drugs, and then they're taking nyaupe, and then these things do not ring in them, you know, because of they are in that state of toxic state. Is it a toxic state?
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, so I really appreciate that you came to give that the insight about that type of life. You know, I've never experienced. I don't want to lie. What you're telling me, it's some of the things, it's news to me.
Yeah.
You know, but the knowledge is power. You know, so right, you were in prison. How's the lifestyle in prison?
Yeah, you know, prison, I always say it's another world of its own. And each and every dog has to hustle for its bone in prison. For me, before I went to prison, because I told you 25 years of my life has been lived in, out of prison. 6 months you come back, 30 days you come back. You know, that's how it was happening. And I was sentenced to 10 months, 2009. So we spent that 10 months in prison. Then I took, you know, this thing called inombolo, or the gangsterism.
Yeah.
But the initiation was in full, because now I was going outside. So when I was outside, you know, now you can meet up with those guys who are doing prison, those who coming from prison, we can meet up, and the initiation continued outside. I became a gang member of the 26. 26 years. So when I went to prison, now I know everything, you know, the jargon, the philosophy, how to, and I get into prison. For me, it was for survival, because in prison, you know, you have these gang things, and I was in a very rough prison, Boksburg prison, and it's juvenile, it's maximum. Those young men, they don't care about life. They are doing 100 years, 40 years, and I'm doing 15 years, but we mixed with them. So life was hard. You know, when you're dealing with juvenile, life was hard there. Stepping was a philosophy of the day. So I had to stand, and, you know, it was stepping. If I can show you all my body, like I have a lot of scars, where we were fighting with another gang camp, the 28th, the 26th. It was just a chaos. But then I realized to say, no, I was never born for this, because I was used like outside. People were using my braveness, you know, people were using my boldness to do crime and all those things. So even in prison now, I'm joining this gang camp, and I'm being used there, because every time when the wardens, you know, the warders come, I'm the one who get beaten. And the philosophy of the gang camp says you don't confess anyone. That's the philosophy.
Sure.
So by ngesiZulu bathi ulibamba lishisa lipholele esandleni.
Yeah.
So I had to make sure that I hold that coil, the hot coil, until it's cold. You know? And for me now, there was a moment of I call it a Damascus moment.
Yeah.
When I start asking questions, because my mother was sick by the time I was 7, and she was sick to the point of death. So I was hurting, and every time now you start asking those philosophical questions. You say, who am I? Why was I born? What am I doing here?
Am I born for these things?
Yeah. Why other kids, they go to school, they drive cars, they are and you are just living in and out of prison. For me, I always say, even if that day you could say, Thapelo, you open the prison walls, the prison gates, and say, go outside, I will refuse, because I know by 2 months' time I will be back here. So I wanted something that goes beyond psychological analysis. I wanted something that will give me meaning, to say, what am I going to do outside? This is the problem of the prison system. Many offenders in prison, they want to go outside. But if you interview them one by one and you ask them, what are you going to do? They don't know. They think they have this fantasy within their mind that life will flow outside and everything, because they don't have the dream or the vision, something they say, okay, I'm going to go back to the community and I'm going to impact the community, and this is what I'm going to do. So for me now, my journey, it's coming now from the Christian space. Now I'm sitting in prison and I'm asking myself questions. One of my friends who unfortunately died, he went back to crime. We buried him on December. He was the one who was, calling people for church. He was in positive things. He called me and said, Thapelo, let's go to church. And that's where my transformation came, because it was in church that I started discovering myself. I started discovering my gifts. I started discovering to say, you are a poet. You can do poetry, Thapelo. You can write. I always tell people to say, only Christ was big enough to cleanse my heart and to forgive me all my sins. Because it was in meeting Christ where now I started to find who I am. Those things were hidden in me. I didn't know that I can speak. I can stand and preach to 2,000 audience. I didn't know that I can write, I can recite poetry. I didn't know that I can do those things. But it was in the church environment where I begin to find who I am. And for me, even time in prison, it was just a normal, because now I was happy to find this person in Christ in my life.
Wow. And then you had a different experience in prison.
So yeah, my experience was slightly different because I took the route of being a France. So France is a person that doesn't associate to a gang. And the reason why I took that decision was on the morning that we were sentenced, one of the wardens spoke to us about the numbers and spoke to us about gangsterism, and said to us, only a cattle takes the mark of its owner. And so that for me was pretty powerful in terms of I didn't want to join a gang. Also, when I was sentenced by an absolute gentleman. And in the High Court of Johannesburg, he challenged me. And when he sentenced me, he said to me that only you and you alone can decide how this experience is going to turn out. Your family, your friends, the officials, no one else but you can make this a positive or negative experience. And so I chose for it to be a positive experience. I'm back there again tomorrow to go work with people. So you ask what life is like in prison. People have this perception that people are lying around all day long, watching TV. That it's just relaxed. In the evenings, it's a Sun City sort of perception that people have of correctional facilities. And that's not at all the case. It's an extremely stressed environment, meaning that they are overpopulated, which means that no one is getting proper psychosocial care. And the guys are basically locked into their cells all day long. So the little bit of exposure that they do have, maybe to skills development or to education, is so limited that it's almost impossible to leave the environment rehabilitated. So someone like Thapelo that went through the process of introspection, like really took a deep look into his heart, who he is and what he wants from life. I managed to go through that process as well. I walked into the social workers' offices and I said, I'm guilty. I'm here because I deserve to be here. These are the things that no one knows about that I've also done, and I want to fix myself. And I was blessed because I got to see the social worker and I got to see the psychologist once a week, every week for almost 4 years. So there was a lot of work that went into me, but at the same time, I made myself available for that work.
For that, yeah.
Yeah, because I was honest. Yeah, I opened that door for myself. And like I said earlier, for me, it really, the 9 years and 3 months, it went really, really quickly. I was on various committees. I served as an ABIT facilitator. I was involved in life skills programs, participating as well as presenting. So my time inside went really, really quickly. And there's a lot of guys in a similar position now that are incarcerated now that have got a similar story to Thapelo, similar story to myself, to some of the other people that we know, that they've made a mistake and they now want to live a better life, and they are doing that. So we definitely need, I think, as a country to spend a lot more time. If we speak about, moving past COVID and moving past crime even, we have so much potential in this country, but crime is choking us. I mean, for me, one of the biggest things that I noticed in 2005, I left the prison to participate in a rugby tournament at Leeuwcorp facility. And I hadn't been outside for about 5 years. So I'd been sentenced in 2000, and in 2005 I went out for this rugby festival. And the amount of electric fences, barbed wire fences, razor wire, like, yeah, we were offenders in a bus to go participate in a prison rugby tournament, but people outside, the people that we were driving past, people that were living in their homes, were under far stricter security. It was like they were in the prison and we were the visitors. And that for me was just to wrap my mind around it was really was crazy.
Sure. Motswana Westside FM ke tsone tseo tse re go tshwaretseng tsone. My guest here, Glen and Thapelo. I don't know if I'll be using the right term if I say the ex-convicts. You know, then people that will actually telling us about this life here, imprisonment. You know, so okay, so you are getting the most important gist of the thing that when we talk about the Nkosi sometimes it's not to ambush people or maybe to say this and this and that, you know, but it's actually making our young people aware of it is not as nice as you can think it is. You end up, there's a lot of years wasted, you know. At the same time, you need to decide what is it that you want to live and how you want to live it. And then Thapelo said it very clear to say that how decided you are not planning to, but you end up with the decision that you've taken. You end up being in that because of you want to belong, you know, a sense of belonging. So Mutwetu always at FM. I would like to, if you have any comment or any message or something that you want to say, you can just copy it out. You can send us a SMS, WhatsApp, or maybe you can call in, you know, if in case there's something that you want to ask them, you know, about the experiences, you know, because sometimes, but Tabarna, yeah, I just feel for them, you know. But in any way, now let's come and talk about the justice system, right? Is the justice system do justice to prisoners after they've been released from imprisonment?
The justice system, in my opinion, is an absolute failure at the moment. And the reason why it's a failure is because we have law firms that have advocates and attorneys and lawyers who are making a lot of money by writing each other love letters. And so you'll have one law firm write to the other law firm we're talking now in terms of civil matters and fathers, for example, with children. Let's talk about family court. And it's creating an absolute nightmare because by the time a case gets been put in front of the magistrate, that it takes a long time to be able to sift through everything to get to the truth. The system, in terms of the correctional services, there are many good men and women who are trying really very hard to make sure that people are rehabilitated, but they're doing so. They don't have the resources in terms of workshops or books or computer access. I mean, we have guys that are serving 22 years in prison that are coming outside that don't know how to send an SMS or that don't know how to use Google properly. When I spoke the other day, I spoke to 23 people and I asked who knows of Elon Musk. And no one knew who I was talking about, or George Bezos. These are two of the greatest entrepreneurs that the world has ever seen.
Yes.
And Elon Musk is a South African. I had the privilege of traveling to Norway in 2019, and after my third or my fourth day there, I spoke to my host and I was like, all of these cars, what car is this? And he was, it's a Tesla. And so I saw this electric vehicle. Every third car on the road in Norway was a Tesla. This is a car that was made and manufactured by a South African citizen. He is one of the richest men in the world. He has a company that is looking to put people onto another planet. And I think for a lot of people, this is, you know, we don't care about this because at the end of the day, we're hungry. We don't know where our next meal is coming from. But there is so much potential that's out there in this world. If only people can take a step back and start to look at the situation, the circumstances. So the Department of Correctional Service, the justice system, is extremely stressed. We need to be making more of an effort to take non-violent first offenders out of the prison system, that they never get exposed to these guys that are serving 40-year sentences or 100-year sentences, because that's a recipe for disaster. If you take someone that's stolen a car or shoplifted, and you put him into a cell with someone that's killed multiple people or raped, for example, and you expect them to live in unison or in harmony, then that's a pipe dream.
Wow.
So there needs to be a lot more effort applied at the courts to making sure that the people who go to prison are people that need to be there, that need to be separated from society, and that those people have proper access to rehabilitation programs, and that the people that should be diverted are diverted and rather do community service or work outside of the community. But it does go back to how this conversation started, and that's that fathers need to be involved in their children's lives. It's not just about paying maintenance, it's about showing up, being present, being a positive role model. And until we can fix that, doesn't matter what's happening in the justice system or anywhere else in this country, we need to fix our families, we need to fix our homes first and foremost.
Sure. Thapelo?
For me, I have a different view, but I think it's in line with what my brother is saying. I think there's a diametrical opposition between rehabilitation that is provided by the justice system and reintegration.
Okay.
One of the things that I don't understand about the Department of Justice and Correctional Service is that they produce product that they don't trust.
I love this, yeah.
They say they are rehabilitating you, they are preparing you, they are the ones should be employing us to prove to the world, to say we rehabilitated them. But guess what? They are the one who have what I call the draconian law, which is a criminal record. The reason why most of people go back to prison is because there's this stigmatization that is attached to us, which is the criminal record. I can't go to bank and get a loan.
Sure.
But you expect me to be functional within the context of society. So I think for me, there's this conflict between rehabilitation and reintegration. Because why? For me, let me maybe be real. I'm coming out of prison 2015, 6 January. It's on Wednesday. I have a bag full of books and my Bible. When I arrive at home, my two sisters approach me. In fact, my nephew and my sister. They asked me money for bread. Imagine, they gave me 20 rand in the community correction at Randbeck when I was released. They gave me 20 rand for a taxi. In fact, I got a lift from them. They dropped me at Rabarich. I had to take a taxi. And I arrive at home. They are asking me for bread. I don't know what to do with my life. Now I'm outside. I have this Jesus and God that I received in prison. But now I don't have a bed to sleep on. The pen that I was wearing, it was the only one that I have. There was nothing in my that little zos. So you sit back, and tomorrow the correctional system, they are here for you to supervise you. They are here to sign. They don't care what you eat. They don't care how you're gonna. So for me, I think it's a matter of we need to have a real conversation about. Most people, they don't love to go to prison. No one loves to stay in prison. There are certain situations that push people to end up doing things. Imagine you are a father, you're coming back. You can't sleep now. Your kids or your brothers, they have grown up, they are occupying the room. You are coming there, there's no job. Even yourself, you didn't rehabilitate yourself in a way that you can now stand in the society and be counted. So you end up going back to drugs, you end up going back to crime. But what I want to say is that there has to be a conversation around rehabilitation and reintegration. For me, maybe to even bring this, for me, I made a decision. It's not the rehabilitation of the correctional service.
Yeah.
For me, I made a decision. I said, Thapelo, you know what? You are uneducated. You are a high school dropout. What are you going to do? How are you going to survive outside? People, they are educated, and so I decided to say, let me sit down and document my story.
Yeah.
That's when I started to write my book, to say, now let me tell the world. And I specialize in public speaking, in preaching, speaking in different schools, and so what I want to say, that even though we're talking about the rehabilitation, reintegration in the justice system, but I think we need to juxtapose and put it into, and maybe understand that even us as offenders, we must take responsibility and accountability. First and foremost, the correctional system, they didn't call us to come to their system. We went to commit crime.
And you end up in their system.
We end up in that system. So for me, I decided to take responsibility and accountability. And say, Thapelo, no one owes you anything. The justice system, yes, there might be this law that it's suppressing whatever I want to become. But I decided to say, Thapelo, I'm going to better my life. God on my side and faith in action. Putting whatever that I've read in the Bible into action, to say, I started waking up in the morning. No one paid me. I went to schools. If you meet me in the way you think I'm going to the office, but I'm just going for 5 minutes in assembly, then I come back, no one paid me. But that thing, I was building myself. I was exposing myself to be able to say, this is the talent, this is who I am, this is what I can do. So I want to say that the criminal justice and the Department of Justice and the Correctional Service, I think there is something that we need to have a conversation to say, why criminal record? Why you produce people that you don't even trust? They can't employ you. They should be the one employing us to show other private sectors and companies to say, he is rehabilitated. But they can't employ us. Why do they expect other companies to employ us?
And in fact, they should be giving you a certificate that you've actually completed the rehabilitation.
We do get those certificates, but
right.
you can't get employment with them. It's just for the parole board.
So my situation was quite interesting when I got released. I basically, because I was busy the whole time while I was inside, and I had the ability, so I wrote myself a CV once I got released, and I mentioned all of the things that I had done while I was in prison. I just didn't say that I was in prison while I was doing these things. So I said I was an ABIT facilitator, and I participated in this program, and so I built myself a CV, and because of that I managed to get a very low-paying job. But that low-paying job at least got me into the market, and that led to another job, and then I started to build a network, and eventually I was able to leave this stigma behind me of being an inmate. I was also very blessed because I got released. My crime was committed in Boksburg, and I was released into Pretoria. So I was in this completely new area where nobody knew me, so I could essentially start my life again. I might be white and come from a middle-class background, but when I was released, I was given 500 Rand by my stepfather for groceries, and he said to me, good luck. Then he left me. And I had a place to stay at least, but that was it. I had no car, I had no experience, I had no network, and it was that thing of, like Thapelo says, you have to make a decision to get out of bed and hustle in the morning, because if you don't do it, no one will. But then the next question becomes, who is your network? Who are you associating with? Because if you're associating with low vibrational people that are involved in substance abuse and drug abuse, or busy doing funny things on the side to make a little bit of shady money, that's eventually going to catch you, and it's going to get you back to where you come from. And then just to end on what Thapelo said about the Department of Correctional Services not employing ex-offenders, it was only when he said it that I thought about it, and it is absolutely
and me
ridiculous.
too, because I just thought that it would be a good thing that they are a point of reference.
Definitely, because if you want to catch a poacher, who better to use than a poacher? You're not going to be able to tell me if I have to go into a cell to go and search where people have hidden things or what's busy going on. More importantly, just to interact with people. I watched a series recently with overseas prisons, and they had a prison in Helsinki. And they had people there for murder and robbery, and these guys, it's almost like a hotel type setup where they're making themselves food. And that for me is one of the biggest problems in the DCS system at the moment as well, is the fact that we have people that are outside their cells for 1 hour a day, but in that time that they're locked up, they get given 3 meals a day that they just get given. You should be making your own food. You should be learning to be self-reliant. But there isn't that, you're not building that thing of self-reliance. So when you get outside, we have this mentality of the government must give me, people must give me a job, people must give me a house. And it almost starts becoming a thing of entitlement. And it's a problem, because if you think that someone's going to give you something because you voted for them, or you're living your life on a slippery slope.
In fact, to even add, this is what I always say to say, I hate the day Mandela was released.
Yo, that's a statement.
Because as black people, we became entitled to everything. I remember one time I watched the news, there was this elderly person who the reporter asked him, are you going to vote for ANC? He says, for what? Why must I vote for ANC? Because I waited for 49 years for them to build me a house. Question, what have you been doing 49 years?
Yourself.
What have you been doing? Smoking dacha, making babies and all that. Then you wake up tomorrow and you think the government owe us. That's why most of people are not doing anything in their communities, because why? We have this mentality that the government, everything, the government, the 350, the everything. We are not being developed. I love what my brother is doing. He's on the farming side. He's developing skills to people so that they can know how to plant their food, so that they can eat out of what they have done. In fact, that's what even the Bible, the Black Book, from the very beginning, it by the sweat of our brow, we shall eat the food. That's what God said. But people, they don't want to work. We want everything to come because we come from the system of apartheid. We think because of that, and it's not going to happen. You have to wake up every day and make your life happen. Otherwise, there's nothing will change. So for me, that's why I made the decision to say, Thapelo, you are not educated. What are you going to do? I didn't sit back. In fact, even now, I'm enrolling with UNISA to do cognitive psychology because why? I did extensive research on psychology because that's my passion. I deal with the mind. So I met someone, he says, are you a psychologist? I said, how come you know all this intricate information about psychology? I said, no, I buy books. I don't buy, you know, those people, you're wearing a 2,000 shoes, but the brain is empty. So
I like that.
I go to
like
the shop,
that.
I buy a book and enrich my mind with knowledge.
Wow. Wow. I like that.
And it's a strong statement to make about the sense of entitlement, but we have a number of examples of really strong business people. We look at someone like Mike Teke from Masimong Holdings. Look at someone like Isaac Shongwe from Letsema. Isaac is, as a young man, grew up in Alexander. So we're lucky now. We've taken a facility in Wynberg. So we're going to be working with the youth from Alexander, doing learnerships with them on urban agriculture, and then hopefully then selling the produce into Sandton. But there again is that paradox. You have an extremely impoverished community living literally across the road from one of the wealthiest communities in South Africa. But you know, we do have these examples of excellence, of people that come from really, really poor backgrounds and have made something of themselves. So again, it just comes down to mindset and opportunity and putting yourself in the right place. Every single day, you are your brand. You are your biggest champion. No one's going to fight the fight for you. Only you. Only you can, because only you know your story. So at the end of the day, we all come from, regardless of our race or our religion, we all have the same amount of potential. We all have the same amount of hours in the day. How are we investing those hours?
But at the same time, what becomes a concern to me is that it's not only in prison where there is rehabilitation programs, right? We have in our communities rehabilitation programs, but at the end of the day, the integration of after completion the program does not take people anywhere. That is why you find other people lapsing at the end of the day, right? But I think if we can talk more on skills transfer and our entrepreneurship talk, if it can be more on manufacturing things, and you doing well in terms of the farming.
Yes.
You know, because of, yes, it takes a lot of time, but after, when you harvest, you know, you become excited because of the product that you're producing after that.
Yeah.
You see. So maybe we need to change our thinking pattern to say we should not depend on somebody to give us a job. But we need to create employment.
In fact, that's my conversations. That's what I you know, whenever I talk in the business environment, that's what I talk about, to say, look, you talk, let me go back to what you're saying. You talk about rehabilitation that are in the community. I always say the problem is not the problem, but the problem is you within the problem. The problem is people, not the mere problem, because why? Life itself, it has challenges. Life itself, it has the problems. You see, we are going to die at the end of the day. We are having problems, but it's how you process those problems within your mind to say, how do I deal with this? Because most people, especially young people, they're being told within the school premises to say, go to school, get a job, become a cog within the system. That's why you find people, sometimes I do conversation in the corporate environment, you find people, they are frustrated because why? They are in that space of employment, and employment comes with debts, the car, everything, the marriage, everything that is around you. We look at you with Mercedes-Benz driving past, but someone is dying inside with depression and stress because he knows to say this job and everything is not working.
And once I lose this job, everything is gone.
So for me, people must start think business. For instance, let me show you. Business is not about what you produce, number one. Business is about marketing. Because if you don't have a marketing strategy, if you are not doing sales, then the product that you are producing, you need to understand the target market to say, whom am I going to sell this product? And it's about not the quantity, but the quality of your product. So, for instance, someone came to me and said, Thapelo, you self-publish this book. How are you going to sell it and all that? I said, no, I know my target audience, and I know people who will want to sell the book. So I have to do some marketing strategy to make sure I sell the book. But no, I went to a certain school one day, and I was talking to matriculants. I asked them, how many of you want to be successful in life? All of them, they raise hands. I said, are you sure about that? They say yes. I said, tell me, 6:30, what do? You watch Skim Sami. 7 o'clock, you watch Rhythm City. 7:30, you watch Scandal. 8 o'clock, Generation. 8:30, Uzalo. 9 o'clock, Movango. 9:30, Mbeu. Then it's time for bed. You are tired. The next day, it's the same routine. You see, people who are in television, they don't watch TV. They spend time developing their skills to dramatize whatever they are dramatizing in the TV. When you spend time watching them, there's nothing that you are gaining out of what you are watching. So for me, it's about developing yourself. Take your laptop, do a research, find out about the products. So how am I going to do this? Like for instance, have you noticed that we can have 2 car wash in the same road, but people can come to your car wash because it's how you deliver your product. Don't worry about who's doing it. No, it's how you are going to present your product. So most of us in South Africa, I believe that we've been taught to look for job, not to create, as you have said, a job. And that's the problem, because I told myself, I'm not looking for any job, I'm a job myself. So I'm not looking for any job. So if we can start thinking in those terms and in those lines, I think we can have a better South Africa.
Wonderful. Now, because of time, we have a challenge with our time, and just unfortunate. But maybe if you have the last words that you would like to encourage the young people out there, because we've got many wandering minds. Our young people lost hope. Some of them, they do have degrees. They have masters, they've got whatever qualification that you can think of. But at the end of the day, when they go even to look for those jobs, they ask for experience and stuff like that. But how can you encourage them? What can you say to them?
Okay, I always say this. Education was never meant for occupation. It's a vocation. It's a calling. Until you find your purpose in life, you are going to roam around like a headless chicken. You need to find the reason for existence, because the day you find the reason for why you are here, so you will understand you are not here to consume, but you are here to build. You are here to change. And the other thing that I can say, that we are free to choose, but we are not free from the consequences of our choices.
Sure.
Bear in mind, you reap what you sow. So what I can say out there to the listeners, the thing that you need to understand, God created you for a purpose. And a purpose is different from a profession. A profession, you are trained in an academic institution, then you go and work. But once you find your purpose, it gives you fulfillment. It gives you satisfaction. You don't do it because you get paid. You look at Denzel Washington, the actor. He's not acting because he wants to get money. He's acting because he loves acting. Money is a byproduct. So even the purpose is like that. Money becomes, I love speaking, I love preaching. Whether you hire me to come and speak, you pay me or you don't pay me. For me, I find satisfaction in preaching. In fact, when it was locked down, I was just reading, and I couldn't wait because I wanted the platforms to go and speak. This is why I was born. This is what I do. And in closing, I wrote a book titled From Prison to Pulpit. And if you want to get hold of me to get the book, my number is 072 540 4867. Let me repeat, 072 540 4867. You can contact me and get my book title From Prison to Pulpit. It's a breathtaking narrative and it's a heavy content. Thank you.
It's difficult to follow on that because my brother is a living example. You must be your brand.
Yeah,
You must be your
yeah.
brand. So I just want to very quickly say, having a job is not the be all and the end all. There's too many places when you walk into a shopping center, people are standing watching you. Those people are wearing the uniform of the business that you're in, but they don't come to you. They don't ask you, can I help you, sir? Is there anything that you would like here? They are not passionate about what they're doing. You have to be passionate about what you're doing. If you are packing the shelves at the ShopRite, be the best shelf packer they have ever had. If you have a job, look after your job, grow in your job, and look after yourself, because I think speaking about the life skills courses that are outside in the communities, we are trying to put skills, we are trying to put knowledge into broken vessels. I think we underestimate how many wounded people there are in our country, people that have been victims of crime, people that have are still carrying the legacy of apartheid, suffering from the stigma of HIV or from being an ex-convict or whatever the case is. We have a lot of very wounded people. Those wounded people that don't look after themselves become toxic people. Those toxic people end up hurting people. Where you are, look after yourself. You are your own greatest asset. You have to present yourself to the world in your fullness. Don't hide away from people.
Morsona Westside FM ki bone di buying back ba kineng kina le bone tsatlena la ka tshino ke solfalang gore o itsetse go le gontsi from them. And then we just want to thank you very much for listening, for coming through actually to giving us that kind of information. And I hope that it is not the last time that you'll be here. In the near future, definitely I would be calling you, because I still want to hear from the ladies' side, Thapelo. I still want to hear from the ladies' side. You know, what are the experiences and stuff like that. I hope it will be sooner. Yeah, we need to organize that they come. And also, Glenn, you'll come back again.
Thank you, Pastor.
You know, because of we just want to get into the details of what you're doing
Sure.
day by day in that skills development, you know, and also farming.
Thank you.
Because I know that there are lots of people that will definitely be. And then, as Thapelo have said, that if you want to get the content of the book, or to understand the book, or to read the book, you can contact him on his numbers, and then he will tell you more details about that. So, Motswarno Westside FM, it's very important to read. I've been preaching this for many times, and then people, I don't know if we are taking reading seriously, but I say, take reading serious. There are people that are doing a lot of money and they're keeping you on your sofas, watching them doing the money. You know, I was shocked when I heard that actually some of the actors per month they're doing about 100,000, 100K. Yeah, right. Right. Yeah. So Motswarno Westside FM Kitsonetseo, we are to the second segment, and then yeah, let's say into the next segment, the 3 words that changed my life.